startups that could transform to unicorns, and followed by their mantra for success, driving factors, and provide valuable insights on the way ahead for future unicorns. As we all know that every unicorn has a unique journey. They go through their set of challenges while scaling up. And if we can get some kind of insights from their journey, which probably we are able to use in our journeys that we will be traveling, we can avoid those pitfalls and probably have a much safer and a more secure journey, though I believe that there is no secure journey for an entrepreneur. I would also take a few minutes to introduce Young Indians. So Young Indians is a platform that has 3,500 entrepreneurs across the country. It also has 25,000 Yuva members. And the idea of Young Indians is to create future leaders with thought leadership and nation building at its core. And for Yuva members, we try to do what SoftBank is doing for the Young Indians. We try to expose them to the ecosystem of entrepreneurship and try to promote them to be an entrepreneur. I would also like to say a few words about Mr. Manoj Kohli. He's the country head for SoftBank India and has over 20 companies in his portfolio. He's supporting more than 20 companies, including the top ones like Ola, Oyo, Paytm, Lenskart, and the list goes on and on. I suppose he's in the business of making businesses. So Manojji has 41 years of rich experience divided across different sectors, manufacturing, telecom, and renewable to be the primary ones. He's worked in different continents and has built businesses in over 20 countries. One of the things that I would like to especially mention about Manojji is that as a CEO and the managing director of Bharti Airtel, he was responsible and the key contributor in making it to be the third telco in the world, scaling it up from 2 million to over 400 million customers. He's also a member of the Academic Council of Faculty of Management Studies and other prestigious institutions like Indian School of Business and Board of Directors of IIT Indore. Sir, a very warm welcome to the platform, and we are honored to have you here. Also, a few words about the man for the day, the person whom we are here to meet, Mr. Yashish Dahiya. He is the CEO and the co-founder of the insurance aggregator and global tech company Policybazaar. The company was co-founded in 2008, and one of the key things it has done, it has altered the way people think about insurance. I remember when I was young, and I choose to believe that I'm still young, that when our parents used to buy insurance, there used to be only one company, LIC, and there only used to be one agent, LIC agent, in the entire area. And the insurances were not bought on the requirements, it was rather bought on the salesmanship of that particular person and what benefits him. Policybazaar as a platform has given that power to the consumers, and we thank Yashish for doing that. Policybazaar is currently valued at $2.4 billion, and please correct me if I'm wrong, this data might be dated, and it gets more than 100 million visitors annually and facilitates over 500,000 transactions a month. That's phenomenal. And Yashish, two things that I would like to especially mention about you is that apart from having a successful business, he's one of the top triathletes of the country, has completed 7 Ironman races, and he considers running and swimming as 2 of the biggest joys of his life. To find time out of the busy schedule of doing business and putting it to their personal interest is something that is incredible. And also one more thing that he believes in is frugal living, because it helps him reduce the clutter in his life. So thank you so much, Yashish, for joining us today. I'm sure your insights will help us learn a lot. And thank you, and over to you, Manoj sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anuj. That was a fantastic start. I'm so delighted to be part of today's session because Yashish is a wonderful friend and a very, very great colleague. And most importantly, coming from a service background, his father was in army, and I think that's a very, very important childhood experience he had. And now, of course, to become such an active sportsman and with very, very high degree of fitness, and also running a very innovative service across the country, and I'm sure tomorrow it will be across the world. So Yashish, I'm very, very proud to interview you today and also share your good ideas, your good tips with a lot of young entrepreneurs who are listening to us today. So welcome, Yashish.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
So Yashish, I thought we'll just go through your journey and go through your struggle a bit, so that people understand that if you have to succeed, you have to struggle. So, and how do you cope with struggle, etc. So let us start with your childhood. What was your ambition when you were a child? Did you imagine that you will get into business? Because coming from an army background, not many children go into business. Many of them go into army, air force, navy. So what was your ambition when you were in school?
Sir, when I pretty much till college, I had only one ambition, which was to join the army. And I don't think any of my teachers thought I could have done anything else, but be in the army, because my entire schooling, etc., I had been quite a disciplined person, and a little bit on the fitness side, and very passionate and very patriotic at every stage. So I think, yeah, that was the only life I had seen. I had not seen anything outside. I did not know what it would be like to be a business person, or to even, as we call it in the army, be a civilian. So that was an alien concept to me, that how can you be a civilian? So that is exactly how I grew up. And I think, as luck have it, a lot of people told me when I was in about 10th or 11th that, why don't you, you seem to be quite good in this maths and physics. Some of my own classmates. And they said, why don't you at least take this exam called the JEE exam? And I said, okay, I will also try for it. Now, as luck would have it, on 7th of May 1990, both the SSB exam and the JEE exam fell on the same day. And given I had spent some time preparing for the JEE exam, and the JEE exam come once a year, whereas the SSB exam comes twice a year, I just thought, okay, I'll take the SSB exam 6 months later, because I have a choice. I can only take one exam. I think it's a very important thing. The government should have one flexibility, that, one can take 2 days, you can have the exams on 2 days, such important exams. And so that became the end of the story, because one got into IIT, and then, of course, life carried on.
No, that is a fantastic story, Yashish, because that means God has built your destiny, not in army or air force or navy, but it had built your destiny to do a big business. And I think that is why on the same day you had 2 exams and you chose this exam, which actually was a good decision, because practically you could go for SSB exam after 6 months, but wait 1 year for this exam of engineering. So that was I will say, God's message to you, that this is where your future lies.
Perhaps, yes, sir. I see it as that, because clearly that was a message. I think God always gives you choices.
Yes.
And those choices can be very different from the ones you think you may have made. The choice you actually make can be very different from the one you imagine you would make.
No, but actually, very frankly, Yashish, the same thing happened with me, and I'm sure with many, many people, that you don't know yourself.
Yeah.
At that point of time, you don't know yourself, you don't know your strengths, you don't know your weaknesses, you don't know many things about yourself. And as the life progresses, these kind of choices make you what you should be. So absolutely. I think that was the first nudge you got from God. That why don't you think of engineering? Why don't you think this may be great for you?
Yes.
So coming to your family, how did your family background influence this aspiration of being an engineer? At that time, maybe you never had Policybazaar in your mind, but at least engineering was there in your mind as one option. How did your family background influence you, and especially during engineering, what happened?
Sir, actually, truth be told, nobody in my family knew engineering. We've never had an engineer in our family. We've never had anybody except army people in our family. Army, Navy, Air Force. Those are the only 3 professions we've had in our family. And that accounts for all my cousins, all my, uncles, aunties, everybody. So we didn't have any experience. I think at that time, this is the 1990s, there were fundamentally two things you could do, right? If you did not want to be in the army, at least from my perspective, you could either be an engineer or a doctor. And, I did not like biology. Studying for that long in a subject you did not like. So I had a natural knack for, or a love for maths and physics. I had a natural love for it. I remember I used to discuss with my grandfather about various things, how to find your way in a forest. And a lot of it was based on physics, looking at water streams, looking at, north to south water flow in the northern hemisphere, various things. And all of it was very logical. So I think somewhere that whole logical part of engineering appealed to me. It wasn't a decision that was bigger than that. It wasn't that I wanted to be an engineer. It wasn't that I wanted to change the world. It was just, okay, so, we are here. Let's see what we do from here.
It was very simple, either doctor or engineer.
Yeah, there wasn't
you
too much
didn't like
other
biology, you went towards engineering.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a fantastic simplicity. I think the destiny came out of simplicity. Any successful entrepreneurs you had in mind, or you looked up to, or you thought about?
No, sir. Actually, I'll tell you where entrepreneurship came from. I was in IIM Ahmedabad, and there were a lot of people who used to follow an entrepreneurship class and entrepreneurship lectures. I was never part of any of them. But what we had was, we had one day in the year when, you could put up your stalls and you could run those stalls. And I just entered that. You had to bid for stalls, get them. I entered that. I took 3 stalls, and I still remember one of them was a fruit juice and milkshake stall. The second one was a jukebox where you essentially played music. People paid. You wouldn't imagine it, but people would come and kind of say, okay, I pay 5 rupees, you play my song. Or people would play for other people. And the third was actually more of I wouldn't call it gambling, but it was more of a, bet and luck kind of store. And that kind of experience taught me I was meant to be a businessman, because I not just ran all 3 very successfully, but all 3 of them made a lot of profit by the evening. And the way I had gone about getting those bids, by the end of it, I knew this was something I would enjoy. Clearly something I would enjoy. And yeah, I just, started thinking about it.
Okay, so that was the, I'd say, trigger to entrepreneurship, which you found in yourself in Ahmedabad.
Yes, it was through those stalls that we ran, and the manner in which I went about running all 3 of those businesses somewhat differently from how anybody else may have approached them. That made me very confident that, as an entrepreneur, I will definitely succeed.
Fantastic. No, I think and that is the value of these schools, and that is the value of these stalls, where you actually understand your strengths and understand your aspirations better than just what you were taught in childhood. And is that because of which it is rumored that you opted out of campus placements when graduating? So why did you?
Yes. So, sir, as I was graduating, this is 1996. We had just had the Harshad Mehta crash, and the markets were not very strong. So, for example, that was a year when a lot of the banks, etc., did not even come to campus. And the salaries we were getting were 2-3 lakh rupees a year. I just kind of did a back of the envelope, and I said, if I just sit at home and I do tuitions for other children, because that would give me a lot of money. And that's what I did. So I started a tuition center from home. And I did not see the need to take up a job because, I would have to go to another city, work, have a boss, work 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever. And, if it was for money, it didn't make sense. I think I was thinking very short term that time, but, I made more money in the first month than I would in my job, about double of what I would. So I did not feel the need to go to the job.
And which year was this?
1996, sir.
96. So tell us your story between 96 and 2008, because 2008 you founded Policybazaar.
Yeah, it's not a very.
What happened in that period?
So it's not a very inspiring story, but I will still tell you. So 1996, I started this business. After about 1.5 months, so my parents had no idea of anything, engineering or management or business. But they knew one thing, that being a tuition center manager was not what they wanted their son to be. My father would have been much happier me being in the army or anything of that sort, not running a tuition center at home. So he got very upset, and upset in the sense he doesn't say things directly, but he started saying things. So he first told me that, look, you will never get married. You will never. Nobody's going to respect you. I said, that's okay. That's fine. So then he came to me one day and he said, look, your sister will never get married because people will say that bhai tuition center chalata hai, so they will never marry you. They will never marry your sister. I said, this is not fair. You've just, putting blackmail too much. But, it's too much of emotional blackmail. So then I, took up a job with ITW Signode, which that was an option that I had. So I took that up and I worked with them for 4 years and I worked very hard. I many times remark that I was not enjoying the salary. I was not enjoying the job. It was not something to my liking. I did not enjoy any aspect of it, but there was no difference in my effort between that time and between my time as Policybazaar entrepreneur. So I was true to my salt and I worked very hard with them and I delivered great results for ITW. And in those 4 years, I became a business unit head. I became a branch manager of the largest branch. I was growing very fast. So I was the youngest business unit head, etc., etc. The reason I mention that is because many a times when young people join places they don't like, they don't put in that kind of effort, or they believe that they have to be inspired. I thought, to me, it was from an effort perspective, it was absolutely full effort, and it taught me a lot of things. It taught me sales. It taught me how difficult it was to get business, etc., etc., and taught me the value of relationships. Now, after this, I went to INSEAD because, again,
if you can just hold on here, Yashish, this is a very important point you're making. You worked there for 4 years. You learned marketing, learned sales, learned relationships. I didn't really love the job, but still you learned a lot.
Yes.
And the most important thing you have said, which I think all youngsters should listen to very intently, that you did your best.
I did my absolute best.
Now that's a very, very important message, because many youngsters today think that only if they love what they do, they will put in the best. What you said was that I took up a job, I made a commitment, I did my best. I may not have liked it, but I still did my best and I learned a lot. I made a good progress of a branch manager of a large branch in those 4 years. So very, very important message. I think this even if you don't love the job or love whatever you're doing, still your hunger to do more, do better every day is more important.
Yes, because every day you don't put in your best, you lose a bit of your soul. And every day you put in your best and you don't give up and you strive for something more, you become a better person. And when your chance comes, you will be able to demonstrate your ability more. So I think sometimes we just have to be patient. We're going through a phase in our life when all we are doing is building for tomorrow. And we don't realize how we are doing it.
No, absolutely. I think that's very well said, that if you don't do your best on a day, you lose your soul. So
Yeah.
I feel because your character is being built, your destiny is being built, it is built through your own hard work and smart work, of course. And it may have moderate results or high results or low results, it doesn't matter. But it's giving you huge learning.
Absolutely, sir. So then what happened is, I went for an arranged marriage system. So, we went for the arranged marriage, and when that was happening, at some point I realized that my wife realized that, that I was really very undercompensated in my job. So otherwise, or by yourself, you don't realize sometimes. And so she said, we basically decided something needed to be done about it. So I went to INSEAD, and from there I joined Bain, and I joined ebookers. So sometimes you call it luck, sometimes you call it push. People call it different things, but my wife was a change in me, which forced me to and transformed us as a family from a low earning family to a high earning family. So within 1 year I was earning probably 20, 30 times what I was earning earlier, and that was just there wasn't a desire earlier to make money, so to say, but in the sense that way. But that push came when it had to, right? And
So basically, your father in the first stage and then your wife in the second stage worked as a catalyst.
absolutely, and I was the same person. I would turn up to work every day and put in the same effort as the best of my ability every day, whether it was my company, whether it was somebody else's company, whether it was something I liked, whether I did not like. For me, it is, and that is the piece that tells me, had I become an army person, I would have been quite good, because an army person doesn't question. Once he gets there, he does what he's there for. That's it, right? So I think that all happened, and then ebookers was sold. It was a success story. After ebookers, we thought about what to do next. I got a job offer from Admiral. So as you can imagine, 1996 to 2008, I've been drifting around. There wasn't a particular purpose, right, that you're trying to fulfill or anything. Yes, you are in the micro manner. You have different purposes. You have job every day, but it's not like you're heading in a particular direction. It
But
is
did that drift time? I think it's a very important point again, because in life there is always some period in everyone's life when it can be called as a drift time, where you're not heading towards a particular direction, but still you're learning a lot, and that learning
yes,
learning is beneficial later on, whenever you need it.
totally, totally. Had I not been to ITW, I would not have known the value of sales. When I started Policybazaar, I would not have known how important insurance company relationships are, how important it was to get everybody on board. I would not have known the value of, a regulator. I would have known so many things had I not been at ITW. And had I perhaps not had the experience of ebookers, I may not have known how to build an online business, run an online business. What are the different components of it? How, etc. So I think every part, had I not had the Admiral experience, I wouldn't have understood insurance as well. So I think lots of pieces come together to, finally what becomes a success. I think there was a question there. We celebrate success stories. We don't celebrate failures. I wouldn't call it failures. I just call them learnings. There are a lot of learnings that you have which come together to make success, because success is not easy. It's very rare that you just get success straight away. So
And
I
basically,
think
what you're saying is that some learnings get you to results faster. Some learnings get you utilized later. It takes a bit of time,
yes,
but all learnings are utilized in life, and that's what I have seen in my. I've done now 42 years, but all learnings are utilized by you. For example, I learned French in school. I used it when I went to Africa after about 30 years of my career. So it depends. But your learnings, you're saying that you taught yourself of various components of Policybazaar pre-Policybazaar.
absolutely, absolutely. And they became big differentiators. As we. So I'll give you a very simple example, sir. Suppose I was just in uh, ebookers experience, so I knew how to build an online business. I would not have known how difficult it is to convince somebody to partner with you. And what amount of effort it takes. I would have thought I'll write somebody an email and they will respond. It takes you 20 times to go and convince somebody, and after getting convinced, somebody then gets unconvinced, and that's sales, right? That's a sales effort. So you need both components to kind of be there, and much more. But I think about 2006, I got this idea that I have to be in insurance, because insurance is very data driven. And the idea actually came from a very simple concept. We used to be in online travel, and travel was a very low margin business. And whether you take a seat on the flight or I take a seat on the flight, the cost to the airline is the same. But what struck me about insurance was that whether, sir, you take a seat or I take a seat, imagine if the cost of the seat could be totally different. That the cost to the airline of that seat can go from 0 rupees to somebody who never claims or who will not claim at all, to, let's say, $1 million for somebody who's definitely going to claim, right? And imagine that kind of flex happening there. This is the original data industry. This is the original industry where data and, even I would say to some extent the engineering mindset, etc. It was all starting to play and starting to get excited about this whole insurance industry. And the possibility of data, the possibility of technology, it's a totally virtual product. Imagine what you sell is just a promise. You have this where the person who pays the money gets nothing immediately. And their best case scenario is they never use the product. The best case scenario for everybody in the entire system, for the seller and for the buyer, is that they never use the product. You think of one more product in the world where that can happen.
No, but this is very, very unique, because I may take insurance for 10 years or 20 years, and if I don't use it, the insurance company is very happy and I am very happy.
Exactly. You don't want to use insurance. You don't feel happy going to a hospital or whatever. So I think it was and as through that learning phase, as I came to India back after my stint abroad for about 8 years, I re-engaged with the insurance category, and I realized how health insurance and life insurance was so lacking. And again, experiences play a part. I had lost my uncle in 1983. When I was working at IW, I had lost a friend to cancer. There were lots of experiences, and those experiences had told me what the pain points were in these products. And in IW, they taught us one thing, that if you want to go and talk to somebody, have something important to talk to them about. Otherwise, don't waste their time, right? Just reaching out to somebody senior is not important. What you have to know is what are you going to say when you get there. And here we have something very important to say, that dear customer, you need health insurance and life insurance. There is no doubt about it. You may choose not to buy it, but the need is there, and it's very, very critical. And so we also found a lot of, an industry which, as in Bain, they used to say, sunshine test. So sunshine test is, if everything about your life gets published in the Sunday newspaper, will you be proud of it or will you be ashamed of it? And I think what I found in the insurance industry was the industry had a sunshine test problem. That if everything about the industry actually got published in a newspaper, the industry may not be proud of it. Just the amount of mis-selling, miscommunication, etc., etc. So we thought this was a very, very critical juncture in the development of the industry for someone like us to intervene, and for someone like us to go and convince the customer to buy the right products for them, not become subject to any mis-selling or any scams, etc., and to shift consumer behavior towards a higher level of engagement. Because this is not a small spend category. You'll be very surprised, sir. After house, car, and maybe some other 1 or 2 pieces, insurance is one of the highest spend categories in the world. It's a $5 trillion industry. It's a huge industry, right? It's like up there with oil and gas and telecom and all that stuff. So I think this industry where the consumer doesn't engage but spends money was a problem. And so we wanted to encourage the consumer to engage. So I think a lot of pieces really convinced me this was the thing to do.
So what I understand is that the triggers of your founding Policybazaar in 2008 were one, that it's lowest per capita in India. Secondly, is lowest engaged customer, but still a huge sector across the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you wanted to, and still it involves some pains for the customer, which you wanted to help the customer avoid, and be very transparent and very truthful.
Yeah, and sir, coming from a defense background and having lived in the UK, again played a very important part in my understanding of the need. And I'll explain what I mean, sir. So my father is now 84, 85. All his medical bills are always paid for because he's he's a retired army officer. So are my mothers. They have never had to worry about healthcare costs, right? They've always had a pension. When my grandfather retired, he retired as a colonel in the army, and his last drawn salary was less than 1,000 rupees. He expired a few years ago, and his last drawn pension was 1.5 lakh rupees. What am I trying to say? I think that social security that came because of the fact that they had put their lives on the line as army people was something that was natural to me, and the lack of it in the civilian life was something very unnatural to me. And then having been in the UK, where again social security is a part of life, so the need for that social security was very deep within me. That look, people must have this social security, pensions, healthcare, protection against young death is a critical element for people to go about their lives. My father always says that the reason an army man is able to put in that effort is because he knows back home things will be taken care of in case the worst happens. And I think that is important in everybody's lives. If the worst happens, we don't want to fall down, suddenly.
So basically, you're saying that security which a serviceman got and the security which people in UK get to social security was completely missing, and that definitely was something which you saw as an opportunity.
Yeah, and I could, and all I'm trying to say is the background helps, because the fact that I had been in these places and seen those things as so real made me feel the lack of it. Had I never seen it, had I come from an absolute civilian family from day one and never been to the UK, I would have never seen that security. And so I would have felt that's okay, right? Why do you need that security? So I think your background plays a big part in understanding the problem, and then being able to kind of feel the pain and try and solve it,
and making you mentally ready to address it.
Yeah, because you're convinced it has to be solved. However it gets solved, and it's a purpose worth following, right?
Okay, now, how did this brand come about, Policybazaar?
We were just sitting down and we were debating, what name to have, and we thought of many names. And there were some technology sounding names, some English sounding names, some other names, a lot of names we had come up with. And the moment Policybazaar came in, it stuck with us. It stuck with us. And it stuck with us not because it was the most clever name, but it was a very mass name. It had a lot of mass appeal. It was like, yeah. So we just liked it instantaneously. And thus the brand became Policybazaar. And I think we got the benefit of it in the sense the consumer understood. And we are a mass company. We're not an elite company. We're a mass company. We largely look at, consumers earning anywhere between 3 lakhs to 50 lakhs. That's the bulk of our, and I'd say the bulk of it is actually 3 lakhs to 15 lakhs, but that's the bulk of our service area.
No, I agree with you. So tell us about the first year of Policybazaar in 2008 to 2009. How was that year in terms of struggle with you and your team?
So we started in 2008. It was in the backdrop of a previous venture having failed. But that had taught me a lot about insurance. So we were very confident. So the first thing about Policybazaar is we were extremely confident. I have never been that confident in my life. We knew it was going to succeed. And we had not a 0% doubt there. We knew, yeah, so all those pieces were in place. We had a very good team. We had 18 co-founders. I had told everybody we cannot pay anybody a salary. We don't have the money. And if they want to be here, it's their choice. If they don't want to be here, it's their choice. We will be able to pay salaries maybe after we get funded. Till then, there were no salaries for anyone, maybe except for the office boy or something. We paid rentals for
And
the
all
office.
18 founders, co-founders agreed to that prospect of no salaries?
There were 22 to start with. 4 decided not to continue because they needed the salary, which is fine. It's totally acceptable. The remaining 18 decided that they had enough confidence in the venture that they were willing to not take a salary. What I told them is when we get funded, we will pay these salaries to you, if we get funded. But if we don't get funded, there are no salaries. So in the sense, once suppose we get funded after 6 months, 8 months, you will be paid in arrears for those 6 to 8 months. So your salaries will accrue, but we will be unable to pay them. We were very clear about that. And we bought some old second-hand computers. We bought a second-hand server. The total investment that went into everything from a cash perspective was about 60-70 lakh rupees. But that did, that much was required. But we could not have afforded salaries in that. And computers, servers. You need a server, right? To get Policybazaar going, you needed a server and various things. So we did all of that. We also needed a broking license. So we bought the broking license with with our own monies, etc. And we started from there. InfoEdge very early on committed to come and support us, and InfoEdge put in about 20 crore rupees. But that money did not come in one go. So InfoEdge first gave 1 crore, then they used to give 1.5 crores every quarter, 2 crores every quarter. So it used to come in small chunks. Every time we had to pay salaries, etc., that money would come. And they understood. So InfoEdge was very clear that what I liked about their fairness was they understood they were unpaid salaries and those had to be cleared. So the first thing they did was they gave us a 1 crore check to clear out the unpaid salaries and all that stuff, and then carried on. Now, we were very focused on revenue because obviously, so before we were invested in, we had a few lakh rupees of revenue already. I think we had 3.72 lakh rupees of revenue before we got funded. And our total direct cost was about 2 lakh rupees that time. So the point is, Policybazaar in its history never made a direct cost loss. We had certain costs which were over and above the, so direct cost would be any marketing or any operational cost that we had to do in order to continue our business. But on that, we were always break even. We've never lost money on that basis.
That's a very important,
of course,
just to hold, that's a very important statement, that on direct cost basis, you ensured frugality so that you don't make a negative margin.
No, absolutely, because that was the only way I could think we would be able to scale in the future. Because if we started making direct losses, then the more we scaled, the more we would lose. And so to us, it was very critical that on direct cost basis, we never lost money. And we were small. There were lots of players bigger than us. At that time, there was a company called Apna Insurance, which was funded by JAFCO. They had a lot of money. There were a lot of other companies that existed. We were about the 20th player. So we were not the first player in the market. But our conviction was very deep. I could see that. I had met all the other founders. And I could see that our conviction on the market is very deep. And what we understand and what we want to do is very different from what they are doing. But we did not sacrifice on the direct cost part. So that is something we kept very tight.
Okay. So tell us about a couple of things which you may do differently in that time if you have to do it again today. Are there 1 or 2 things which you feel you could have done differently?
The surprising part, I know they say that we should all learn. The surprising part about Policybazaar, and I think this could not have happened without some kind of divine intervention or somebody, some kind of guarding angel or something. There is almost nothing about Policybazaar, nothing, that 13 years later I can think of which I would actually change. Which is, you could call it arrogance, you could call it lack of learning, but genuinely I have been surprised by how accurate we have been at every step. I've just been, backwardsly surprised that how could we have made that call?
It is not, Yashish, I won't call it arrogance. It is that your commitment and dedication to the cause was so high that each decision you took was prudent. Each decision you took turned out to be right. Yes, a bit of luck factor definitely is there, but that means you thought through decisions.
Yeah, it was. So let me put it this way: when Policybazaar was started, we no longer had the option to fail. I know entrepreneurship is all about trying and being okay with failure, but to me, the stage I was in my life, with having had success at 32 with e-bookers, and then 1 or 2 years of failure after that. This was about 34, a young family with expenses, etc., and obviously no income coming from here. But this was just a something which was building for the future. The option of actually losing on this was not there. It, as they sometimes say in the army, that option of loss is not there, because if the army loses, then the entire country is gone, right? So it wasn't there. So I don't know how to put it, but it wasn't like, okay, there's a 70% chance to succeed.
I feel that enhanced your commitment to succeed. I think that is
Absolutely.
how. So tell us now about where is Policybazaar today, and how do you think in the next 3 to 5 years Policybazaar will grow?
So I think, let us talk about what has been achieved so far. What has been achieved is health insurance and life insurance, which were in India till 2008 barely spoken items. Nobody used to buy health insurance or life insurance. They were very small. They are today in insurance the largest researched products. They are more researched than motor insurance. They are much more researched than the savings products, which are still a mainstay of the industry. So what are we saying? The consumer has woken up and is starting to engage. Now, who is this consumer? There are about 6 crore families in this country who can afford insurance of any meaningful nature. The rest of it really comes into what you would call, government support area. But about 6 crore families have the wherewithal to afford private insurance, if you would, and they also need it, because if they don't buy it, the downside can be quite severe, and they're not looking to get into. They could fall under that subsistence zone, which they don't want to do, right? Of course, this 6 crore people in the next 10 years is going to be about 15 crore families. The 6 crore families is going to be 15 crore families. That has to happen. That's the evolution of the country. And that is only about 15% of these families have today bought any insurance of health insurance or life insurance. That number is going to be about 50%. So I think the market is going to grow. There's no doubt about it. And many of these will be young people. A lot of them will engage for the first time online. So I think as a brand, etc., it's very well placed to kind of cater to that serious insurance buyer. When a person spends 20,000 rupees a year from his own pocket for the next 20 years of their life, it's a very serious decision. It's a serious commitment, and they don't do it frivolously. And so being that serious advisor in that area is very critical for us. I think we are at this point working very hard on the customer service aspect, both the onboarding, the policy management, and then the claims. Because, and I think like UPI came and kind of transformed payments in India, the government, through the National Digital Health Mission, etc., is likely to transform the service side of these products, which is the claims experience. And as that happens, as those rails develop, the confidence in the health insurance industry and the healthcare industry both will grow, and people will feel far more comfortable using these. So I think we have a lot of growth ahead, driven primarily through, some kind of government rails coming in, a lot more awareness being built. So, simply put, I know it's not a very large number, or it's still a large number. We've spent about 2,000 crore rupees educating the consumer just about the need for health insurance, life insurance in the last 13 years. That's a lot of money. We are almost,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's almost
Absolutely.
30% of the industry spent over this period.
So tell me two aspects which really I love about Policybazaar. One is your online service, which will attract all the youth of this country, and all the youth will definitely start looking at insurance seriously. And if that happens, then the millennial generation, which is 27 average age, etc., are millions and millions who are coming up in the coming 5 to 10 years. So I don't think growth is an issue. But do you think online business and having such a large youthful population is helping you? And the second aspect, let me add before you share your thoughts, is the branding. I think your branding has been marvelous. I have built the Airtel brand when I was in Airtel from zero to #1 in the country, and I know how tough it is to build a brand. But you have built a very unique, simple, very customer-focused brand. And actually, every time I see your TV commercials, they are very, very simple and humble. And I think you are hitting the target audience so well, so simply, that they will definitely come to you. So what is your thought on that?
No, I think we have been very engaged on the brand side. There are consumer pain points, and only if you are able to feel those pain points are you able to come up with our brand communication. I would go to the extent of saying our quality of creatives has actually been quite weak, but the genuine message in those is very powerful. And it's a very, I think you correctly put it, it's a very simple message. All it says is, if you don't have insurance, hospital bills will cause a hole in your pocket. That's the truth. There's nothing unique about it. Where your hospital, I don't know why we have to shy away from saying the truth. If a young person who's the primary earning member of the family dies, how exactly are the school fees going to be paid from next month? How will the house rent be paid from next month? Has anybody thought about it? Is the family going to go on government support? And do we actually believe in today's time the relatives will step in and actually help? And what are the conditions to that kind of help? Right? I think people have to feel that pain to understand. When I lost my uncle in 1983, the family used to live in Hyderabad. They moved back to Jhajjar. You see the schools that the children will have. What will happen? Because I agree, people can go back to the village, but then what happens there? And then they came to Meerut and stayed with us for 6 years. The family stayed together in one house, right? Because the family needed support. But all I'm saying is, even with that support, how is the experience? Was it a very nice experience for them? Maybe not. Staying in somebody else's house is not a very good experience for that long. So I think, and that is despite the fact that my father was in the field, because my mother's sister. So it could be a decent experience because at least the father wasn't there. But if the father was there, I think it would have been an even harder experience for them. If I think about it, I'm just trying to get to the practicalities of the situation. And I think people don't understand that. So our message is very, very powerful. It has to be said in a very simple manner. And what we're trying to solve is genuine. See, what did I find when I did that initial survey of all the other founders and everything else? Everybody spoke about two things. They spoke about, this is a very, very large market, a lot of money to be made, distributors $5 billion every year. Very good. So big total addressable market, so we can solve something. The second thing they made was that the industry is backward, so we can use technology to make a change in this. Both very valid points. What did they miss? In my opinion, I did not hear the pain of the customer from anyone. I can promise you, any time in the last 15 years, if you had spent time, and you have, any time you spend time with me, half the time will be spent talking about the consumer pain, at least, if not 80%. And that was our biggest strength. We understood the consumer pain. Today also people say, oh, why is Policybazaar growing so fast? It is growing because it understands that consumer pain. Nobody else understands it. When I talk to the other distributors, why are they not growing? Because they're focusing on trying to make money. We also have to make money. Because I believe a very simple thing. You have to have blood to do your activities, but that doesn't mean we become blood banks. You know what I mean? To go about our life every day, we have to have a certain amount of blood in our body. But that does not mean I have to become blood bank.
That is a fantastic passion which you have, and I'm telling you, feeling the consumer pain and addressing the consumer pain in a very simple, direct way is a long-term winner.
That is what
really a
creates
long-term winner.
No doubt. It's based around that. Yeah. So all our communication is based around that, and all our services are also based around that. And it's not easy. You know, we have never, I don't think we can claim to have gotten there, even on a service aspect, onboarding, claims. It's very difficult to provide those services. We have to deal with 40 companies. Most of these companies are bigger than us, much bigger. So they will work on their own terms. But we have to handhold that. And the only thing that keeps us going in all of that is understanding that there is a consumer, there is a pain. Also understanding there is an insurer, they also have a pain. Dealing is not easy.
Okay. Before I hand over back to Anuj and Ashish to ask their questions, one last question from me, Yashish. What kind of fitness activity are you able to manage today in today's situation of this billion-dollar company?
No, so see, I have never changed. And the thing is, I have not started when I was older. It's okay to start when you're older also. I've been a runner since I was 8 years old. And I spend about 2.5 hours every day still. You know, we all have time. When we think about it, we all have time. And for me, if I don't exercise for, let's say, a couple of days, I will get quite irritable. I know it. So I think, yes, I managed to get 2.5 hours of exercise every day.
So that's a wonderful message because at my age, I'm sticking to about an hour a day. And at your age,
awesome.
You are much younger, you are sticking to 2 hours or 2.5 hours. That is fantastic because I feel that fitness is not only good for working harder and physically being healthy, but also mental health. I get a lot of mental health, a lot of balance, a lot of calm mind because of my fitness. And what you're saying is absolutely right, that on second day, if you don't exercise, you feel irritable. And that's the right thing, which means body and mind are protesting that you should go and run, you should go and exercise. And that's a very important message to all entrepreneurs.
We all have, see, my father is 85, he's still working. And that's what, you know, is important. I think because we all have long careers and our ability to carry on those long careers depends on our health. So I think Absolutely. It makes sense.
Very, very well said. Very well said. Now I hand over to Anuj and Ashish if they have any question for Yashish.
So thank you so much. Over to Ashish.
Yeah. Thank you, Yashish. It was indeed so much pleasing to hear all the experiences that you shared, right from the days of your decision making in terms of while you were graduating years, and then the way your Manoj sir rightly said, at one point of time, your parents acted as catalyst, and sometimes your wife acted as catalyst. But these catalysts are so very important. And I think, Yashish, you have to play that role. You have actually played that role of a catalyst for the entrepreneurs of next generation. Today, you are being taken as a role model by many young entrepreneurs and professionals. So today's session, I'm sure, is going to have a great value for them, and they will be learning a lot from your values, your decision making abilities, And facing the tough time, the struggle is an integral part of any success story. That also comes out quite clearly. But it is what is important is the persistence, perseverance, and resilience, which you have, I think, wonderfully displayed all along your career. I will see if there are any quick questions that we can take, Manoj sir. Any
Before
further
you do
questions?
that, my last request to Yashish. Yashish, for the future young entrepreneurs, what is the one message you would like to give?
I think you never know the future. You have to just, there's a saying, and my children say I've copied it from the movie. They say a man does what he can until his destiny reveals itself. So, just stay focused, believe that there is something out there which is going to take care of you. And just do your best all the time and don't be disheartened. And you don't know what lies in store for you. That is definitely the case.
That's
fantastic.
fantastic.
Ashish, Anuj, any other question before we let go of Yashish?
So we would rather not let go Yashish easily. We would have more. But indeed, very inspiring. I just have one question from my personal side, sir, and in fact, it is coming on the chat window as well. Yashish, your views on that, and Manoj, sir, your views as well on that. People say that it is not we who pick our destiny, but it is the destiny which picks us for itself. So, how would you see it? Whether as a person, humans make their own destiny is what any energetic, passionate guy will say. But some people also say it is the destiny which picks up the right person at the right point of time.
I think everybody gets opportunities. Different people may interact differently in those opportunities. I'll give you a very small example. I was once taking part in a relay swimming race.
Okay.
And one of our participants at that time got injured on the head. And there was blood coming out of the thing. And you can imagine, swimming is a water sport, etc., etc. His name was Salil Chari. I think at that time people could have opted for anything, right? It's a practical thing, right? You go to hospital or you do something. That person swam the race and we won. And later on, I was mentioning to another friend of mine later in the evening that look, what a great thing that guy did. He, despite being injured, he took part and he kind of won, and he won for the team, and it's such a cool thing. And that person said, who would lose that chance of being the hero? Now I don't know, right? It's different perspectives. It's different perspectives, but I think people choose and people see things as obvious, different things. Eventually, it's our choices that make us. Right?
Absolutely.
I think opportunities come to everyone. It is just sometimes we recognize them, sometimes we don't recognize them. But that's my view.
Absolutely. Manoj sir, your views on this?
No, I agree. I think God presents many opportunities to all of us. It is left to us, how many do we pick up? And if we are courageous, we'll pick up more. If we are not, of course, less. So back to Anuj.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So one last question from my side is that while you are generally a lot of us face a lot of challenges in the initial phases of team building, and when you're trying to build a business, the destiny is still not known, and it's difficult to attract the right kind of talent and to get them on board. So Yashish, in your experience, did you face that kind of challenge, and how were you able to navigate that? It's something that I think would help all of us.
See, truth be told, I never faced that challenge. And maybe that is, as I think about it, even back to those IIM days when I set up those stalls, I did not run all 3 stalls myself. I had people running them who were my classmates. So I think if I was to look at one strength besides, determination and all that, one of my big strengths is I'm able to, inspire people or convince people to Sanjeev, who's our first investor, puts it very well. that as a founder or as a leader, you have to be a magnet for talent. I'm very, very grateful that somewhere, I have that capability where we have very talented people. Like, right now we have Sarabir Singh, we have Naveen, and we have Alok. I mentioned many times that we have 3 CEOs in the waiting in our company. As you look at most organizations, they're not able to find that. So we are actually brimming with talent rather than the other way around. And I'm not saying talent doesn't exist in the rest of the world, but I think we are in a very, very lucky position. That's how it's been, right? From day one, 18 co-founders, nobody taking a salary. They were all leaders. Why did they do it? I don't know. It's a middle-class person. They were on average earning 10 lakh rupees a year. Going without a salary for 6-7 months for a 10 lakh rupees person is very, very difficult. So.
Really.
So I'm sure you must have been fortunate, and thank you so much for the inputs. Over to you, Ashish.
Yeah. I will just take another opportunity to thank everybody. Thank you, Anuj. Thank you, Yashish, first of all, for being so inspirational in sharing your story. It would act, as I said, as Manoj sir pointed out, as a catalyst for the future entrepreneurs. Thank you, Manoj sir. I think the next decade, in fact, next 5 years are going to present so many opportunities for India, that if we are courageous enough to pick the right opportunities, as you rightly said, if young entrepreneurs of today can pick the right opportunities, I think the world is opening to India like never before. So thank you, sir, for such a wonderful session and interaction with you as well. And thank you, Anuj, and YI for all the support from your side. I will also thank all the participants, around 400 plus participants who are there with us during the session. And many questions which we couldn't take on because of the time paucity. I will request participants to send those questions by mail to us, and we'll connect back with them with opinions of Mr. Manoj and Mr. Yashish. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, CII team, for organizing it. Namita, Prince, Priyanka. But thank you, Prince, sir. Thank you, everybody. Anuj, Manoj, sir, and Yashish. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Manoj sir. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Grateful to you.
All right.